this verse is Isaiah 32, 17 and 18. It says, the work of righteousness will be peace, and the effect of righteousness, quietness and assurance forever. Okay, and it says, my people will dwell in a peaceful habitation, in secure dwellings, and in quiet resting places. Now, does that mean we all have to live in this perfect little serene environment to have this? You know, a monastery somewhere high in the mountains? No, he's talking about us in real life, real circumstances, in Christmas time with a gazillion people running around, you know, and lines and cars. We still are promised peace. But it's up to us to learn how to cultivate that in our lives. Now let me show you. This is a testimony that I have in my book, obviously. It just shows the effect of peace on when we come in peace, how that impacts us physically, spiritually, emotionally. One Saturday afternoon, while ministering to a group of people in regards to acquiring their inheritance in the Lord, the Holy Spirit instructed me to pray for individuals who are experiencing physical pain in specific areas of their bodies. A number of people responded, so I began praying, and we witnessed a number of instant healings as I moved down the line. Several months later, when I returned for a visit to this church, an elderly woman approached me. She wanted to tell me what had happened after I laid hands on her and prayed. Prior to our prayer time, this woman had suffered greatly in the area of stress and worry. She worried about everything. Not a day went by that she did not experience some kind of stress in her daily life. So great was the weight of stress upon her that she found it difficult to drive or go anywhere in her car. Aware that this was not what God intended for her, she took a huge step of faith by enrolling in a school of the supernatural offered by a local church. By surrounding herself with people of faith, she hoped that all her fears would be eliminated. They were not. In fact, while attending the various classes held on different nights and days of the week, this sweet little lady began to notice that her body was beginning to react negatively to all the fears she constantly carried about with her. The left side of her face began to sag. Searing pains ran down her face, through her neck, all the way to her upper back. This is when I first encountered her at the church. As I laid hands on her face, neck, and back, I commanded all fear to go, and then spoke the peace of the Lord all over her. Right after I prayed, she knew something had happened. All the pain lifted, and she immediately experienced the peace of God flooding her body. By the end of the session, she knew she needed to drive home, but this time when she got into her car, things were very different. She suddenly noticed that all stress and worry had lifted off her, and that dear saint was able to drive home in perfect peace for the first time in many years. She later noticed that even the left side of her face was no longer sagging. Even several months after receiving her healing, the gift of peace, she informed me that she had no reoccurrence of any physical pain or symptoms she had previously experienced, and now is able to drive wherever she needs to go in complete peace. Isn't that amazing?
That's awesome.
It's one of the benefits of learning how to reside and dwell in peace is that we can establish peace and speak peace, release the Lord's peace into the lives of others. And that's one of the gifts that Jesus is wanting each one of us to walk in release. How many people do you know need peace? You know a few people? Yeah. All right, well, it's amazing what it does. And, it's interesting, when I first go into this peace, we look at it. Okay. Peace is not just this euphoric kind of, numb mind kind of resting. That is not peace as Jesus described it. Jesus describes this peace as living and active. This is a very aggressive peace that we must aggressively learn how to guard. And that's one of the things that my book teaches you, how to guard that peace. In fact, Jesus described that peace as a sword. He described that. It is in John 10:34 and Luke 12:51. Someone was talking to Jesus and he said, "Don't think that I came to bring peace. No, I didn't come to bring peace. I came to bring a sword." And it sounds like, that could really get you all confused. Like, what? Peace on earth. And Jesus says, "I'm not coming to bring peace. Are you kidding? No, I got a sword and I'm going to use it." But you know what the sword was for? The reason why he said that is because the sword was used to set the captives free from the lies of the enemy first. The lies that, you are guilty, you are worthless, you're condemned, you'll never be good enough. All those lies, that's what drove Jesus. He hated that. He says, "No, these are my people, and I'm going to cut them free. I'm going to set them free from all of that." So that's the first thing that he did. And then in John 14:27, Jesus said he left his peace here on earth for us. That is part of our inheritance. He left it here on purpose. So it would be very important for us to learn how to use what he gave us, don't you? It might be a good tool. So now, let's look at the word goodwill. The word goodwill means kindly intent, to take delight and pleasure in and towards man. So it's the Father's good pleasure to experience, to have relationship and fellowship with us. That is his joy. That's what he loves to do. And he wants us to take delight in him as well. He wants us to walk in his grace and favor. He wants us to succeed on this earth. He wants to lavish us with his goodness. That is what our Father wants to do. So do you believe this? You guys believe it? Okay, just checking. So if we believe, well, let me just tell you something. How we believe affects how we receive from the Father. If we do not believe what he says and he wants to give us, then we won't get everything that he has. It has to do with us agreeing with him and being in a position where we can receive everything that he has. So, there's a lot of people who might like to just kind of tote this gift of salvation around. Isn't it beautiful? Isn't it lovely? But I think there's something more. Don't you? There's something more than just this beautiful gift of salvation. In my mind, it's like, well, I'm kind of curious, so what else is in there? There has to be something else. So this is where I'm going to need my 3 volunteers. So who are the very 3 brave people? All right. There's one person who's not walking in fear. Let's see, who else? Oh, we got 2. One more. One more volunteer. All right, thank you. It's nothing scary.
Why isn't this odd?
Yeah. We're just gonna go explore a gift. All right. So, Jesus told a story. He told a story, well, lots of stories, obviously, but he told a story in Matthew 25 about a master who called 3 of his servants together. It actually says, the kingdom of heaven is like a man traveling from a far country. Who's that man? Jesus. He came from a far country. Heaven's pretty far. Okay. It's like a man came from a far country. And he called his servants, and delivered to his servants his own goods. Okay, what are some of the goods? Come on, everybody knows. What are some of the goods Jesus gave us? Salvation. What else? Healing. Provision. Peace. Fellowship.
Deliverance.
There you go, deliverance. All right, so he gave us his goods. Well, here is some of the goods. First of all, let's look at this. Some of the goods that he delivered. Okay, we got another package here. Now the goods I came up with in my list, this is very short, of course, is the new covenant, a favor, not based upon our works, peace, forgiveness of sin, authority, he gives his authority, favor and provision, and realization of the Father's good will. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so those are the goods that he gave us. Now, verse 15, it says that when he gave the goods to his servants, he gave them according to his own ability. Now, that sounds like works, doesn't it? You know, like, oh, the servant that really can do it really good, and they're the ones that really got loaded. But actually, that, you know, well, let me just ask a question. Does God have favorites?
No.
No. He loves, see, this parable always bothered me, because if God loves all of us, why is he giving one of the servants got 5 talents, another servant got 2 talents, and then the other servant just got 1 talent? You know, that doesn't sound very fair in my mind. But, you know, it has to do with what that word ability means. That word ability actually means dynamis, or dynamite. It means force, miraculous power, strength. So, is that something that I have, or you have on your own? Do you have miraculous power, strength, ability? Anybody? Any? Not me. It's a gift. So, based upon our ability, it's not what we do, but it's what we receive. So I'm going to show you that. Okay. So if it's a gift, it's something that's not based upon our own effort. All right. So the portion of the gift that we receive is based upon what we believe about the giver. Okay? What we believe about the giver. So the key word, the first servant, it says that the key word in what he did with it is, this is summarized, of course. I could read the whole thing, but I'm just summarizing. The key word is he traded. That's what it said, traded. And traded means to be engaged with, commit. So basically what happened is the master came up to him and says, okay, servant number 1, I am leaving. You are now me. You are going to act on my behalf. You are going to do everything. I'm going to give you my goods, and you act on my behalf. You are now my ambassador. Do you believe me?
Yes.
Servant, believe me. Okay, so let's give you 5 talents. Put your hands out there. Here's our talents. They're glass. I wouldn't be toting something like this. Just in case you're wondering. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5 talents. All right, so this servant, she believed me. She is now acting on my behalf. So guess what? You're going to get 5 more. So get your hands ready there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Based upon her belief, she received 5, she traded, she got 5 more. Thank you. Can you step over here? All right. Servant number 2. Okay, the key word is gained. So the word gained, it means to gain or win, to be spared, barely escaping from evil. So basically, servant number 2. Okay, so I want you to be my ambassador. I am giving you all my goods, and I want you to act on my behalf. Okay, the problem is servant number 2 sort of believed. Well, servant number 2, you say, yeah, I'm probably not really good enough to handle my master's goods. I think I can do it. I think I can at least believe for salvation. I don't know about all these gifts and things. I mean, that's kind of crazy, but I know I'm safe from hell. I know I'm going to heaven, right? All right, so I'm going to give you 2 talents. Okay, and it says because this servant was able to believe enough for salvation. The servant was given 2 more talents. Good job. Servant number 1.
Yeah, I know about
Do you know that? We don't take these examples personally. Okay?
No.
Okay. So, servant number 1. All right. So, number 3, I'm sorry. Servant number 3. Okay. So, basically, servant number 3, the word that was used to describe this servant was hide. And the word hide means to take upon oneself without excuse. So, honestly, I don't think that servant number 3 was really a terrible person. I don't. I think servant number 3 was very meticulous, took responsibility seriously. He looked at his master and then looked at himself and he says, no way. There's no way I can act on his behalf. I can't do that. And so he deemed himself unworthy and incapable of acting on his master's behalf. And, he probably just didn't want to mess it up. He thought, oh, if I get my master's goods, I'm going to mess it up. So what did he do? He hid it. He buried it. There you go. For a second. Hang on to it for a second there. So he buried it. She. I keep saying she buried it. Oh, there you go. But, we get a key to really understanding what was going on in servant number 3's mind, because she said, oh, my master is a hard man. Verse 24. Well, did these servants call me a hard man or woman? No, they didn't describe me or see me as that, and yet they were all in the same household. But this servant the reason why he called him a hard man is because I believe this servant had the old covenant mentality of if I don't perform right, I'm going to be punished. So there was some fear there. Now let's think about that. He said, I was afraid, so I hid it. Who else was afraid of God? Who else was afraid of God? Anybody can remember in the Bible?
Adam and Eve.
Adam and Eve. When all of a sudden they realized that they were in sin, they became afraid and hid. So here we are again, afraid and hid. They had a knowledge of good and evil, and they realized they couldn't do it. They had already messed up. So guilt and shame caused them to hide. So anyway, when the master responded to servant number 3, he called them wicked. He said wicked. Now wicked, that's a good word. It means degeneracy from original virtue, passively ill, diseased. So originally the servant had opportunity to believe and receive, but she did nothing with it but hid the gift and became diseased in her thinking, agreeing with lies rather than believing if the master said, you can take my goods and use it. Rather than believing what the master said, she judged herself and said, I am not worthy. So anyway, so she did nothing with it but hid the gift. And actually now that word wicked, there's a little bit more. So she became diseased in her thinking, but the word wicked also means full of labors. Trying really hard to please God. Trying to do good. Trying to do this. And it's full of labors. Jesus called that wicked. And they want to take care of, our tendency is we want to take care of ourselves. Oh God, I don't need you. I can handle this one. Okay, I can do this. I'm good. Or I'm not really worthy of praying and asking for your help. So just, I don't want to trouble you right now. And then there's people who do good things, but then they find out that really what they did was not good enough, because it's not heaven's standards, it's man's standards. Jesus called this self-righteousness, trying to do it ourselves rather than just receive what he has for us. So the Bible says that the enemy then came and snatched away Actually, now I got that from the next parable where, because that bothered me. Why did the master take that one away? But no, the parable following that story in 25 talks about the birds of the air snatching away the seed. So it was not the master who took it away, it was the enemy who took it away because she was not walking in the authority that she had. She buried it. So he came and took it. So so this servant was just looking on her own natural abilities and said, I am incapable, and she lost what she had. So we are called to look towards the giver of the gifts, not at ourselves, not upon our estimation of what we think we can do. And that's what I wanted to share. I've got a little bit more. Thank you, ladies, so much. You can drop your little treasures in there. Thank you. Thank you.